Good Tuesday evening, and welcome to This and That, the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Gilloway, along with my partner, Bill Bostic. We hope to bring you guests and topics you'll find both fun and captivating from the worlds of local politics, arts and leisure, pop culture, and beyond. And this is a This and That, the podcast / Lingelstown Gazette in conjunction with one another show. So let's just kind of throw that up together. Bill and I are friends, and we are going to be partners on this show and others. We've done this before, and we'll do it again. And
we're working on a new logo, by the way.
Two trusted sources, one shared goal.
There you go.
This and That, the podcast, and Lingelstown Gazette. So our sponsors for tonight's show are, and these are our This and That, the podcast platinum sponsors, the Robert H. Hoke American Legion Post 272 on North Mountain Road, Team PA, AAU basketball, and Rickabaz Electric. And how about the Lingelstown Gazette sponsor helping us out tonight?
Yeah, Blue Line Pools and Outdoor Living. They're actually in Lingelstown on North Mountain Road is where their office is at, but they do work all across the region, putting in custom pools and custom patios. Do some great work there, Joe.
All right. Yeah, I've seen photos of some of their work, and it looks fabulous.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. So, Bill, I haven't asked you this question in a while. You know what I have to ask you, right?
I know.
What episode number is this of This and That, the podcast, Bill?
38.
Oh, God. You're way you were kind of getting better there for a while. You said 38 like a month and a half ago, and I think you were right. It's episode 41.
Oh, wow. Okay.
41 shows in. Kind of slowed down over the last month and a half due to a couple of issues. I had pretty major surgery. I've been recovering from that, and
Right.
I'm going to say this without dragging it out. Men out there, or people who love the men out there, loved ones, please have yourself checked for prostate cancer. PSA, it's a blood test that'll get things started. It's very, very simple. 1 in 7 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. And if you have at an average risk, you should start around 50, higher risk between 40 and 45. And I only say that because that's what I just had. I had my prostate removed in the first week of December. And, I'm glad I did. I had prostate cancer. I was diagnosed in 2022. And this isn't about me. This is about you and encouraging you and a male loved one in your life to please have your PSA done and make sure that you're okay there.
Yeah, it's just a simple blood test. That's all.
Simple blood test. Yep. So upcoming, Bill, this Thursday, we're going to do 2 shows this week. How about this one? Meteorologist Tom Russell.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Tom's a great guy, great community guy.
How much different is that? We didn't even mention tonight we have 2 members of the Central Dauphin School Board, but we try. That's why it's called This and That, Bill.
Yeah.
Because the school board members are this. Tom Russell is that. Okay. Or the other way around, however you want to look at it.
We've had chefs on, we've had comedians on, all kinds of people.
So many. It's been this and that. It's been truly this and that. And the last thing before we bring our guests in, our disclaimer is the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants who voice them and do not necessarily reflect the positions held by This and That, the podcast, or Lingelstown Gazette in this case, as an entity, Bill or myself, or the sponsors who support the show. So that's about it. Tonight we have 2 members. They're called directors, Bill, school board directors, right. And Central Dauphin School District directors, Dave Dorneman, and the board president, Mike Jacobs. They're both from Region 3, which is out in the Lingelstown, West Hanover area, that general area. They've both been on the board since 2023, and I'm going to bring them in right now. Here's David Dorneman, Michael Jacobs. We'll go by Dave and Mike. How's that sound, guys? Since that's what you have written. We want to be friends with you guys. That's part of the reason we do this, is to kind of allow some interaction, at least in some sense, in some way, between the school board and the residents, the taxpayers, and we're excited to have you guys on. So, Dave, your turn.
Joe, can I just say
absolutely
to both you and Bill, first, thank you for the opportunity you've given the Central Dauphin School Board an opportunity to appear on this podcast over the last couple of years. And, as I think other board members have talked about, we've prided ourselves on trying to be as transparent as we possibly can, and appearing on local media outlets like this affords us that opportunity. And so on behalf of the board, just thank you for the opportunity.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming on. So I think what we'll let the viewers know what we're going to try to cover here, or some of the things we're going to discuss, is population increase creating capacity pressures in school. I don't know if that's not exclusive to Central Dauphin, but we're here to talk to the Central Dauphin people, and it's a big concern. It's a serious situation. Then we'll get some kindergarten centers updates, and then we'll finish up with strategies for the future. There's always going to be something going on, whether it's right now or in the near future, and then whatever else you guys want to talk about. So I guess for starters, there was an aggregate population increase of 14.5% in the 7 townships and boroughs that comprise Central Dauphin School District from 2010 to 2020. That's just in 10 years. That's a huge increase in population, 14.5%. Those townships and boroughs are Lower Paxton, West Hanover, Middle Paxton, and Swedara Townships, Dauphin, Paxtang, and Pembroke boroughs. I don't have the accurate numbers, but the numbers have continued to increase from 2020 to 2025 to today. So I guess we'll start with this. Mike, do you guys have a good grasp on which schools are at capacity or getting so close to being at capacity that something needs to be done about it immediately?
Yeah, certainly. It's been a topic for the last several years at the board level with the administration. And Dave has a unique position as our Buildings and Grounds Committee Chair to really be privy to some in-the-weeds details and data and statistics. And we can certainly get into those. But at a very broad level, Central Dauphin, as you noted, is a district that has grown over the last 10, 15 years considerably. But in addition, in a very similar projection, the poverty level of our district and the families that go to our 19 school buildings also has increased. And so I just had the opportunity today on my professional capacity to participate in the governor's annual proposed budget address, which obviously encapsulated a whole lot of things, one of which including is education. And Central Dauphin is a district that has benefited greatly from the change in education funding policy as a result of the recent court decision, because Central Dauphin was being shortchanged financially because we were a growing district that was also getting poorer, but our state funding formula did not accurately reflect growth in both of those areas. Long way to get an answer to your question, which is to say the board has been watching this information, watching this growth pattern, which is one of the reasons why we looked at the full day kindergarten model and pulling out kindergarten from most of our elementary schools.
Okay.
The cost to expand buildings in today's environment is beyond astronomical. And the most cost-effective solution that the administration and the board developed together was long overdue, which is full day kindergarten. And what we did was we went out and purchased vacant office buildings, and we're turning them into kindergarten centers. And that really solves, there you go. So that really solves 2 issues that we're facing the district. 1, capacity issues in our elementary schools. 2, the fact that we were the only district in the county that didn't have full day kindergarten, which was a shame, right? And it's something that we've corrected. And we'll get into the details on the full day kindergarten, kind of what's happening, like you talked about. But I think, for our 13 elementary school buildings, we looked at, do we expand them, cost exorbitant amounts of dollars, or do we try to solve 2 problems with 1 issue, which was full day kindergarten and capacity. And so I think to your point, the growth is something that we've watched in the district repeatedly. And here was one of the, doesn't solve everything. This is just really on the elementary school side. But it has gone a long way towards easing our capacity issues for the next several years, while also giving the kids an academic benefit of full day kindergarten.
Okay. Dave, I'll bring you in. Can you explain to the viewers what these three buildings I just put up? I'll put them back up one at a time. What they're going to be used for? I know that one. Let's start with the one that you guys are in already to some capacity. Tell us what that is. I think it's 75 South Hawks Road.
Yeah, so we had an old administration building that was on the East High and Middle campus. So we're taking that building and repurposing that as a kindergarten center. And then this was able to move our cyber program, which is also on Mountain Road, which is a building we already had. And then our administration and kind of move everything into one place. That we were doing all of our meetings and different things. So getting that building there was really important because it freed up two other buildings that we already had. And we're able to repurpose those other two into full-day kindergarten centers.
Okay. How about this one here, which is 4251 Crumbs Mill Road, another real modern-ish looking, real beautiful looking building.
Yeah, so that's going to be another kindergarten center that, again, a lot of the schools, I mean, when I'm looking at the numbers and looking at a spreadsheet that I kind of keep my own, is almost every school but one on the elementary side was either at capacity or even over capacity, according to the PDE. So it was a challenge, and we were looking down at the population projections. We're like, oh my gosh. And so a couple schools are able to keep those kids in house, but really getting the north side is going to go here, like getting those kids into these buildings, gives them that full day, which actually that idea really came from the public. We did a survey and said, hey, what, if you could do something different in Central Dauphin, and I was shocked. I mean, almost the number one issue on everybody's was full day kindergarten, and we really needed that. And we saw it with a lot of some of our kids that they're succeeding when they're coming into kindergarten. They're doing like a program after school in kindergarten, or they're coming in with pre-K. So that early childhood development really sets the stage, and those students thrive kind of going in versus other students where maybe their parents can't because of their work situation or financial situation. This gives everybody an equal opportunity to succeed, and that's kind of another great thing of that is we're gaining capacity and giving everybody an opportunity. Now, what they do with that opportunity, that's up to obviously the students and families, but giving them an equal opportunity is really important, at least for me. And again, I'm speaking for myself on this. I'm not speaking for the school board. And I think with Mike could either. This is kind of our personal thing, but we're a pretty aligned board on a lot of different things. So you probably would hear similar things from other board members.
Right.
And I would just add to that, one of the other issues that Dave correctly pointed out when we did our survey and sort of talked to the community and figured out, one of the things we identified was one of the reasons that families choose alternative educational opportunities. Could be private, could be parochial, could be cyber charter, whatever it may be, is that a lot of those other opportunities provide full day kindergarten. And so we were losing a lot of our potential student population to other alternatives that offered full day kindergarten. So our hope, and I know you've talked to Eric on the board, one of the things he constantly talks to us about is the amount of money that we're spending on cyber and cyber charter and the millions of dollars that we spend paying for education kids in other settings. There's a hope that in addition to the space issues and the full day kindergarten benefits, that additionally, this also has a financial ramification by bringing students back who otherwise may have gotten education starts in other settings.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Bill, you want to step in here?
No, I have once you want to close down this issue about the buildings, I have a question that's a little bit off topic, but
I have another question or two about the buildings.
Yeah.
Specifically, let's start with this. Pick it up here. What are the stresses put on the system by overcrowding? I know that it's more than one or two, but talk about so the taxpayers, so those at home can understand why this is such a big issue. I've heard, we had to put an extra row of desks in our classrooms back in the 70s. And, you guys have heard this. Everybody wants to, or a lot of people want to compare what they had to experience or endure to today. But talk about, it's kind of turns into a pressure cooker. Like at some point, it's just not going to work well, right?
Yeah, if you think about just our classrooms, you don't want to have 30, 35 kids in a classroom. It's difficult for our teachers. Kids are different these days. I hear a lot about back in my day. I hear that all the time. It's a different world. Kids' brains are wired differently. The electronics, like there's so many studies that talk about, when they're on TikTok and other things, it changes and rewires their brain and their attention is a lot less. So having 35 first graders in a room is not, you're not going to be a conducive learning environment. So there's the educational side of that, the behavior then can get out of hand. I mean, I'll give you an example. Lingelstown Middle is so kind of packed right now, as we didn't have enough seats in the lunchroom for the kids.
That's
Right.
rough.
So hallways are packed. So then kids are walking by each other, and, kids. I mean, I have 2 kids and a 14-year-old son. Guys walk by, bump into each other, and then kind of things happen. So, you can't have that overcrowding. It's bad across the board for educational behavior. Even trying to make sure you have safety and security with that many kids in a hallway. It's really difficult. And it's just a different world than it was, even 10, 15 years ago, let alone, I went to school in the 80s and 90s. It's just a different world now.
Yeah.
Difficult. It's more difficult for everybody, teachers, students, security, administration, just everybody, right? There's nobody that's unaffected by it. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I would just also offer another perspective on it, right? Everything that Dave said is 100% correct. But what people also don't see is, when I talked about our population, our student population continuing to rise, a subset of that population is our special needs. And our special needs population in Central Dauphin, from a student perspective, continues to rise. And that's largely due in part because we're really good at educating kids that have special needs. And people seek out Central Dauphin School District for that reason. And so because of that ability of our district, we've seen substantial growth, and we continue to see growth of that type of student population. Coming with that student population are certain requirements that we have as a district. You're limited in the number of kids that can be in a certain classroom, which then, exacerbates the space issue if you already are confined and limited in terms of your rooms. So not only are we experiencing kind of that general student population growth, but we're also experiencing the special education population growth. And so the combo of those two things creates great stress on the spatial issues within any one building, particularly at the elementary level. We've seen neighboring districts like Susquehanna Township and others that are experiencing similar. I mean, this isn't a Central Dauphin issue.
Yeah.
This is an education issue. And so we've watched neighboring districts have to put in trailers outside of their schools just to accommodate, because they're trying to figure out, do we build a new school? What are we doing? And so, Central Dauphin's not unique in the challenges that we face, but it's just, we were able to potentially solve it, at least temporarily, by implementing full day kindergarten.
Okay.
One other thing to add to that is we have a growing immigrant and refugee population in the area. So we have a lot more of the students, the English as a second language. They need extra space, right? Because, they may need some of our staff come in, give support. They need their own rooms and do different things like that. So just all these things kind of combined just makes it may seem like, hey, I'm only at 80% capacity. But when you look at all those other factors, we have 0 free rooms in some of the buildings when you walk around. So it's just it's a continuing challenge and a big challenge for our staff. I mean, I credit to our staff, our teachers, the sports staff, everybody from top to bottom are top notch. They do an amazing job, and we support them. We appreciate them so much. They have a lot of different things to deal with. The teachers didn't, again, have to do with 20, 30 years ago, and they're doing a great job of balancing all those different things.
Yeah, Bill and I had Susquehanna Township Superintendent Dr. Tamara Willis on twice, and I think this is just. I think we live in an area that people want to move to and they want to live in. There's a lot. This area, Lower Paxton, West Hanover, Susquehanna Township, this whole sort of South Central Pennsylvania area has a lot to offer, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So, so the last thing, Bill, and then I'll turn it over to you. I wanted to put this up. Is there one area that's kind of experiencing? This is a region map here,
Right.
And region 1, just kind of in layman's terms, is more of the Swatara Township and the south of Jonestown Road or Route 22. That's region 1. Region 2 is north of Jonestown Road up to Middle Paxton Township, and then region 3 is the Lingelstown, West Hanover areas. Do I have that right, guys? At least generally speaking.
Yep.
It looks like Swatara is kind of, that doesn't mean that nobody else can move into Swatara, but it looks like it's kind of built up for the most part. And I know you can't take this map too literally when you're talking about that, but there's a lot of land left out in the region 2 and 3. Is that kind of where you anticipate most of the new builds happening, the developments?
Yeah, we watched. One of the things that we've tried to do as a board, once I came into the president position with the urging of a lot of our board members and directors, was we need to better engage with our local government partners. That includes the townships, the boroughs, as well as the county, because we're all kind of in this together. And when we're talking about growth and we're talking about developments, obviously the local governments have a huge role to play in that whole process. And so my fellow board members have done just an amazing job of engaging with our municipal partners to try to get on the front end of a lot of decisions and growths and make sure that they're looking at impacts not only to their local community, but our school district. A lot of times the school district is sort of forgotten when they're talking about zone changes or, planning commission meetings or, whatever it may be. Look, I served for a year on the West Hanover Township Board. So I've sat in their seats. I get it. I understand it. And Dave has really great relationships with the leadership in West Hanover Township where he resides, and other board members in other municipalities. And so, we look at, so through those conversations and through that engagement, we've been able to have conversations around what's coming down the pike, and there are some significant development pressures that are coming in the two areas of which you mentioned, Joe.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at, and the challenge is, while we just talked about full day kindergarten and the relief that is given to our elementary schools, we've got middle schools that are jammed, and Central Dauphin High School is jammed. That building, when it was built 20 plus years ago, wasn't built big enough. And I wasn't on the board, Dave wasn't on the board, and none of us were there. But, so whatever challenges they had and decisions that they made in that moment are leading us to now 2 decades later of going, we've got problems because that building just isn't simply big enough. The cafeteria is squeezed. The parking lot is incredibly tight. And not to mention, from a classroom perspective, we're out of space. And so while we've tried to rectify on a grand scale the elementary side, which we've effectively done, at least for now,
Right.
we're still not done because we've got pressures on the middle school and the secondary level as well.
If I had to guess, I think 20 years ago, there might have been no more than maybe 1,400 kids in that school. It's probably 12 to 14, and now it's right around 2,000. Is that correct? Are those numbers?
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a ridiculous increase in students to try to use the same building, the same structure, and do all the same things and properly serve the students with the same space. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you nailed it on that. West Hanover is probably got some of the most area, so we're seeing that. When we redid the elementary school, we literally gave relief to almost everybody. The two schools that were still kind of at the uncomfortable level a little bit, or about to be uncomfortable, were Lingelstown Elementary and West Hanover Elementary. So of course, we're talking about that development. It's going to be on 22 on Wenrick. There's maybe 1,100 units, however many. Those are all going to Lingelstown Elementary and then Lingelstown Middle, which Lingelstown Middle is also is above where we need it to be. So, and West Hanover continues to grow, and there's not a lot of stuff we can do with those things. So those two are going to be a continued challenge with all these developments that are going in. But even on, you look at that, I said technically it's region 1, region 2. There's some farm areas that are also changing there, like off Union Deposit, and some things that are being sold and being developed. So when we look at our numbers at the elementary side, like on the east side, that will go eventually into East High School. While East High School is okay today, I'm looking at my numbers right now, my spreadsheet, by 2029, 2030, we're at 85% capacity. So they're also in that range. So, we got to get really creative on how we address the middle school and the high school side. There's not really any good options, when you look at building and things like that. So what else we can do as an academic path for students and things like that. I know the administration is still working through all those things. We're trying to implement an ROTC program and some more apprenticeships, and giving students that maybe are not going to be going to a college, maybe they want to get into skilled trade. We're talking about adding classes for those and giving, partnerships with local businesses in the community to get those kids experience. Because that's a great path for some students. So I'm not hey, you have to go to college. For my personal job, I don't require anybody to have a college degree. I think everybody It's about the person and their journey, for at least for me. And I think that's gives some other people a path that they come out and they're doing great. One of my neighbor kids, he's 22 years old. He went right into welding, and he is absolutely doing an amazing job. He's traveling around the country. He's getting all his certifications. And he's about to kind of fully be on that welder, and he's going to have an amazing career, and it's great. That's a great path. So we want to give that option for students, what's interested to them, not push them saying you need to fit in this box. Every student's going to have their own path that works for them.
Right. It's for another show, but Votech's going to need some space too. We already had Bill. I don't remember his name. I think he's if not the president or not, if not the principal, he has a higher end job there. But so that is for another show. But some of your students will go to Votech and will want to in the future. So, Bill, I'm sorry to keep you hanging so long, buddy.
No, that's okay.
Let's bring in Bill Bostic.
Yeah, I have just a couple of things sort of backtrack and catch up on. Mike, you talked about the governor's budget address. Did he specifically talk about special education dollars today?
Yeah, he mentioned, and again, I don't have the facts and figures in front of me, so I apologize. But there was a component of the budget where he talked about the basic ed subsidy as well as the special education. And then there are sort of ancillary pieces out of the direct funding, such as one of the things that the governor's administration has put forth that's been very successful is providing stipends for student teachers. That program got gobbled up incredibly fast. The first time they rolled it out, they pledged to put in some more dollars on that. And it's been incredibly beneficial as we try to grow our teacher base, not just in Central Dauphin, but everywhere in Pennsylvania. And so, so he, they continue to try to have to abide by the court ruling, which required them to put additional resources and funding into it. And the formula, as we talked about earlier, the formula has disproportionately benefited districts like Central Dauphin because we had been denied for so long leading up to this moment because of our growth. And so we have benefited as a result. And it's why we're able to do things like full day kindergarten. It's why we're able to try to finish out the air conditioning in the buildings that have yet to be air conditioned, that are long overdue. And so all of that goes into being able to sort of create this, idea and complete projects that are needed.
Okay. Yeah. And if anything,
comment on the air conditioning because
go ahead.
I need these comments to stop online. So
I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, good luck.
So we have 2 done. We have 2 more that we just approved. And we got 2 more that are going to be left after this. But everybody's like, hey, when I was a kid, I didn't have air conditioning. We did, but when we were kids, you could open the door, have fans, and have the windows open, right? With security now, windows have to be shut, doors have to be shut, and there's no airflow. So it is different than when everybody else grew up. There's no other option. You can't bring in window units because the electrical panel can't handle that. You can't have battery powered. We looked at every single solution. We talked to every HVAC company that exists, I think, on the planet. Doing AC is critical because our staff and our students, it's not, you go to Mountain View before they had that in the 2nd floor and you're like, oh my gosh, it is so hot up here. There's no way you can learn. And we had to cancel school a few days. So these are really critical things to get done. Plus you're getting a kind of full renovations because you're getting new lighting that saves on energy. And, you get a whole HVAC system, all kinds of different things that are in there. So these are really important projects.
Yeah.
And can't go back to 30 years ago. It's a different time.
You just approved Paxtonia and E.H. Phillips. Those are the 2. Okay. You have 2 more to do then, right?
The last 2 are Lingelstown and Northside.
All right, there you go. So you're making progress there.
Good.
Another question I had was on the building, the office building on Hawks Road. I was in that building. It was used for Lower Paxton Township's government. They had a really nice meeting room in there, and I was at your first meeting in the revamped building. What happened to that old meeting room? Because that was really a great space to hold meetings.
So I honestly don't know. I was never in it when Lower Paxton was in it. I will tell you that when we moved into the building, it was incredibly turnkey. I was blown away how we were able to walk in and not do really substantive renovation and change to the structure. They already had kind of like departmental office pods where like the IT department's going to be here and the administration's going to be here and whoever, right? And it was already sort of broken up in all the ways that we needed it to be to function for our purpose. In addition, as Dave said, it allowed us to bring in our cyber, which was housed over on Mountain Road, so we could use that building as a full-day kindergarten academy. And so we moved them out. But in addition, then on the ground floor in our welcome center, we were able to expand our enrollment facing department to encapsulate a whole lot more. As Dave talked about, we're seeing exponential growth in an immigrant population in this area into this district, and we needed to provide more services when they walk in the door to Central Dauphin. That's not just about education, but it could be about healthcare, it could be about social services, it could be whatever. And so our welcome center and that space has afforded us the opportunity to expand our services.
That's fabulous. I love that. We had Jeannie Webster and a couple other board members on a few months ago, and one of those guests mentioned about the welcome center. It kind of warmed my heart because, there's people that they don't feel at home if this is a new home for them and their family, and for them to know that you care enough to have a center there, a room or a program to help them acclimate. That's really good stuff, Mike.
Yeah.
So Bill,
working on a translation device. A lot of people, there's a lot of different languages that are there. So, and instead of having an interpreter have to come in for all, a lot of different things, we're gonna have these devices that can kind of translate real time, which is great. So everybody can kind of understands what they need to do. How they can set up their accounts and all those different great things. Yeah. We have a local healthcare system that I don't think we're ready to announce that's a formally, but they're going to step up and help make sure, whether they need, there's insurances and doctors and dentists and, optometrists, whatever you need, make sure they understand kind of what they need when they come here. And so there's some really, really great programs coming just to make sure that our students and their families, because the families are a really important part of education, understand kind of the expectations and are set up for success.
Speaking of Jeannie Webster, she says, and our curriculum department was moved as well. That she just mentioned that on the thread here. Yeah. So thank you, Jeannie, and thank you for watching.
At least one more thing here.
Yeah,
and you were talking about development, and I think Dave mentioned the proposed it's proposed, it's not ready to go on Wenrick Street near Lingelstown. Mm-hmm. I was just wondering how, you talked about working with the local governments. How much advance notice did you have that plan was working through the township system?
So we partnered with an architect that did kind of a comprehensive plan that we're still kind of working on some of the final touches. And we started to see that, and we knew there's some different zoning and things had changed. I think when we saw the scale and the scope of it, it was higher than we had anticipated. Yeah. We're not architects and experts, but, as we were going through this process, we were learning more. And that's, for me, when I first started some of those developments, specifically that one, my heart dropped, and I was like, I bet. Yeah. I don't know what we're going to do. And then that kind of really helped. Hey, that kindergarten center kickstart is, hey, we need to get this done as fast as possible, because if that happens, and I know it's going to be spaced over some time, but that area right there is a challenge capacity wise. So if that goes through as proposed, and it's 1,100 units plus the other ones there's a bunch up on the mountain, I think on Blue Martin or Eastern Parkway, there's one up there. There's a couple more in West Hanover. They're getting approved. And we keep getting these variances approved from the townships where they're adding more and more space. Hey, instead of 5 units, it's 20 units or things like that. Yeah. There's a big apartment building going on 22 and 39. So when we're seeing all those things compound, that was the flashing red siren, DEFCON, what is it, 5 is the highest? One, DEFCON 1.
That was probably the first time I saw a school superintendent show up to a planning commission meeting ever.
So not to interrupt, Bill, I will get it back to you, but since I think we're right here at this juncture, Pennsylvania is a non-impact fee state. Okay.
But for developers.
For developers. Yeah. So talk about the burden on the taxpayers, because the developers, there are certain things that are left behind, I'd say, or the left to the school district taxpayers to handle, because they don't have to in this state. Who wants to take that one?
I'll start. So one of the things that has crept up in a conversation as a result of all of this is really, what would it look like if we had educational impact fees? And because, and again,
Mike, I just want to interrupt long enough for you to explain just briefly what an impact fee is. I mean, Bill
Sure.
and I know, but for those watching.
Yeah, I think, so when I was on the West Hanover Township Board, and we would do developments and parks, and they would do fee in lieu of FILO payments. And so there are ways that municipal governments have opportunities to create additional payments from developers.
Right.
And one of the things that is used in other states, I couldn't tell you how many, but it's something called an educational impact fee. There are transportation impact fees. There are other types of impact fees that you can levy on a developer because of the development is going to result in a certain impact to an area. Could be transportation, could be school, could be land, could be green space, whatever it may be. And so there are tools in a municipal toolbox, one of which is not educational impact in Pennsylvania. And so, it's one of the reasons why I come back to trying to create relationships and communication with our local government partners. We need to know as far in advance as possible if something's coming down the pike. You just can't build a school that's going to cost $40-50 million tomorrow. And while Dave's right that, developments are always phased in and it's not like immediate, everybody's here tomorrow, because we already have capacity issues in the buildings that will be responsible for educating the kids in those developments, we have to start planning today. Mm-hmm. And that's why, the administration asked us and the board passed a resolution around eminent domain. It's not because we identified property. It's not because we want to go grab property. It's not because we have any specific thought in mind, but it's a tool, right? And we see the challenge that developments like the Wenrick development are going to cause to buildings that are already at or near capacity. And so we need to make sure that we have every tool in our toolbox to be able to accommodate. And that, whether it's acquiring land to build a new school, whether it's expanding any school, whether, whatever it may be, we just need to make sure that all of our options are available.
Right.
And Becky Ryder Craft here, we try to get to all the questions or comments. She says, thank you, Becky, for watching. Are you aware of the 216 multifamily apartment complex being built in Dauphin?
We are aware of that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the list. Yeah. So it's just like that shows you how many. There's so many other things that are kind of going on. We have this. It's like a 3-page list of different things that are proposed. So there's a lot, and so that's why for me as buildings and grounds, where when we were doing all this stuff, it was like I'm looking 5 years in the future, going, oh my gosh, if all these things hit, it would kind of be chaos. Mike mentioned $50 million. That's an elementary school. That's what it starts at.
Yeah.
Middle school's at 100. You're probably really realistic. If you need a new high school, it would be 200 million. Right. That's the start. I mean,
probably no less than 200 million.
Yeah. The building costs these days are like, we look at it, our architect gave some hey, here's some different pricing we did in North Carolina or some other areas in Pennsylvania. And your mouth drops on the floor. Like, wait a second, West Hanover was basically rebuilt. We used some of the building just in 2021, and that was $22 million. So the costs have just exploded since 2021 timeframe, and it's hopefully things continue to slow down a little bit on inflation, but the building costs are not, and then all the additional government regulations with DEP and all these other different things, it just continues to add to the cost for us.
Right.
Now, I'm just wondering, when it comes to this developer impact fee, education impact fee, whether it's, I look at this and I say, geez, we need to get one in Pennsylvania. I don't know how realistic that is. I think the Builders Association is really loaded up with lobbying efforts to prevent that, but it just seems it's a big oversight, that we don't have them contribute a penny to this kind of thing. So would you support an advocate like me, going down that road and exploring it with our lawmakers to get an education impact fee?
Yeah. So as a government relations professional in my professional capacity, I lobby for legislation all the time on behalf in a healthcare field. And so I would tell you that passing legislation is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Especially when you have some concerted opposition
right.
To it. And so listen, I think we would support you. I don't speak on behalf of my other 8 colleagues,
Right.
nor the administration, but I can tell you that me personally, I think I would support it, having sat on the municipal side for some time in West Hanover, as well as now in this capacity on this board. I can tell you that there are a lot of changes I would like to see, and one of them would be an educational impact fee.
Well, the argument against it is, it's just another tax on the developers. Well, if there is,
raise high prices for homes. So
well, it'll raise taxes.
I'll give you this from maybe different perspective from my not my specific school board, just my general thought is every time you have these federal and statewide kind of mandates, like it doesn't always fit the local area. Like a lot of stuff we even have to do education wise comes from the federal government, which goes down to the state, but then goes down to our local. And there's not a lot of wiggle room on that. So I'm a big fan of the local side because our residents now have a powerful voice. And so if they have something that works or doesn't work, they can go ahead and make those elections and actually make an impact versus some of our statewide impacts where Philadelphia and Pittsburgh really decide how things go a lot of times. And so I love the local side, let our local leaders be responsible and held accountable at the same time.
Good. Bill?
Yeah, just the one other point on that, Dave. As far as authorizing an education impact fee, it seems to me that's something that the state would have to allow versus a local district saying, okay, we want to have one. I don't think we're able to do that now.
But the local townships. So
I think a municipality, if they wanted to pass an ordinance that would establish an educational impact fee, I'm not sure of the state law around it and whether or not they're afforded that, but because they have the ability to enact other impact fees, my assumption would be that the local government, if they so choose, could do it. Obviously, developers would oppose it. It's another cost on their behalf. But if you just take a step back and you objectively look at the issue,
right,
and you're looking at a district, doesn't have to be Central Dauphin, it could be anywhere, and the impact of growth and development on any school district,
right,
as a taxing entity, we are limited for the most part in how much revenue we can raise on any one annual basis. Mm-hmm. The revenue that we can raise has to deal with increased costs. Forget about the development increases, forget about the condition, the air conditioning and all that. We have to borrow for all of that, right? So I think, from a local government perspective, if they were objectively looking at it and being honest, I would think they would support something like this.
Well, we'll have to figure that out because there's a municipal planning code that sort of authorizes municipal. So I'm not sure if this would have to be in that or not. So that's a question we'll have to figure out.
Right.
You got your reporter hat on, so you can figure it out.
Yeah, no problem. We'll figure it out.
Bill handles that stuff.
We have spoken with us, had those meetings. We brought that up, and I know at least one township is looking into that just to see if they're legally allowed to. But if we hear anything else, we'll fill you in as well.
Well, you can always negotiate. They can always negotiate with the developer, but that's probably hard too.
Yep.
Okay, so I got just a couple kind of canned questions here, but they're going to be questions that I think that those at home probably want to hear answered or addressed. We already discussed that Central Dauphin School District is very good at educating special needs students. We know that, and that it's a very diverse district. We're very good at educating those from all kinds of different backgrounds, whether it's ethnic or religious or both, and there's a whole lot different in addition to that types of backgrounds of your students. But what besides that, what are the district's strengths? What are you guys most proud of?
That's a great question.
That's a canned question, man, but it's a good one too.
It's a good question. I would tell you that you stole some of my thunder on that, right? So I think that for a district that's the 8th largest in the state, right, that has 2 high schools and 19 buildings, soon to be 23 buildings, right? I think we're really good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a ton of money. It's an absolute ton of money that is our budget. But, for the thousands of students that we educate every day, I think we do a really good job. And I would give credit to my fellow board members who really have taken an interest and have really dove into the economics of education and looking at, how can we do things more efficiently? How can we be better stewards, even though we think we're pretty good today?
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, we have done a really good job. I've been on the board since 2020. I've been really proud that I feel like even though we did raise taxes last year, we have something to show for it, right? We're putting in air conditioning in our third and fourth building in 2 years. We've expanded to full day kindergarten and purchased a bunch of new buildings to do it, right? So I feel like we're not raising taxes to raise taxes. We're raising taxes with a purpose and using those dollars wisely. So I think I'm really proud of the district and how we have, you know, completely revamped our leadership with a new superintendent over the last several years that has revamped our leadership team. They've done a wonderful job. They're thinner than they were previously. So it's less individuals. I see your cat, Joe. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
so I, you know, I think you know, I'm really proud. I'm really proud of the board. I'm really proud of the administration. I think we do a really good job. There's always room to improve. We can always get better. We can always do a better job. We can always raise our test scores. But, you know, doing these things incrementally, I think with an end in mind, I think our vision's really good. I'm proud of it.
Dave, I don't know if there's much left for you, but I'm sure you have something to add, right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, you know, it's not only the, okay, you know, you kind of talked about some of the diversity. We have an urban right side. You know, we have Pembroke, and we have a suburban side, and then we have more of a rural side, right?
Yeah.
Central Dauphin. So
Right.
there's a lot of kind of different people that we're trying to kind of mix in and get together. And I think it does a great job of really, like, you know, we have great students. They come out of our system and they're ready to go and hit the world. And there's a ton of successful people. You just go around the area and look at all the former Central Dauphin students that are business owners and are leaders in the community, and people who live there their entire life. So I know it's not perfect, and we can't. It's you know, we have 14,000 kids, but really 12,000 in our area. You know, a lot of staff, a lot of teachers. We're trying really everything we can to kind of make everybody happy with what we have to work with. Education is a challenge. You know, I appreciate everybody putting in the hard work, and I think it does show. And if you look at it, we should be proud because this community is full of people who've lived here the whole life or come back after, you know, maybe living somewhere else. And I think that says a lot about what we do here.
You know, I always say that what you're tasked with is a pie, and there's 3 distinct slices or pieces of that pie. And you have to service, obviously, the students. You have to service the taxpayers to a degree, okay, because they have the biggest voice, or at least they're the ones that speak up the most, it seems like. But also the teachers. What is being done to kind of address the issue with retaining teachers, keeping teachers happy? You do not want rollover. You do not want, just like any Fortune 500 company, they want to keep who they have for the most part, unless it's a plan to let people go. But I don't think there's much of a plan to ever let teachers go, especially if they're good. So how are you addressing keeping teachers happy and keeping them retained?
Yeah, so I'll talk about a couple of things. So I think one of the biggest challenges our teachers face is discipline and student behavior in the classroom, right? And I think a lot of that starts with the leadership in the buildings. And so there has been some turnover at many of our buildings in the leadership positions, principals and assistant principals. And it's important for them to be hyper engaged with their teachers and connected to their teachers and communicating with their teachers. It's important that we meet them where they are, and that we're very intentional about how we support them, how we help them deal with student behaviors. Look, as a school board member, our job isn't to be in the buildings. Right. Our job isn't to be in the classrooms, right? We are, you know, and I probably told you this the last time I was on your podcast last year, but you know, the analogy that I was always given was, you know, the school board is like the passenger on the taxi, and the taxi driver is the administration. Mm-hmm. We're going to try to tell you where to go. We're not going to tell you how you need to get there. And so it's incumbent upon the administration and thereby the principals who they lead to be able to support teachers in the way that they need supported. Different buildings require different levels of support. Yeah. Different buildings have different challenges. So It's not a one size fits all response in how you support a teacher. But the hope is that you've put leaders in place that are able to drive the support and if they're not, to be able to figure out how. So as Dave said, at the very beginning, the teachers and the students are at the core of what we do. They are the reason we are here, and our job is to do whatever we can as a board, as an administration, to support them. And that includes dealing with behaviors. That includes, we're looking at, in the next coming years, we've got negotiation for union contracts. So it certainly involves compensation and those type of things. It involves air conditioning buildings that aren't, right? Because they're cooking in the late August, early September, right? How can we support teachers? Again, every building's going to be different, but the sentiment remains, right? You got to support the teachers.
Yeah, I didn't mention the taxpayer second, meaning that was the second most important slice of the pie. I mentioned them second because I wanted to talk about the teachers. Just anybody that thinks that I was kind of prioritizing the taxpayers over the teachers.
I think to add to that too is we have 19 buildings and it's kind of like 19 individual schools. So really trying to standardize, great best practices while also kind of giving everybody's going to be kind of a little bit different. So putting those systems in place. And what I love so far recently, so we have a new kind of committee where we're looking at curriculum and academics, and we've invited all the staff, said, hey, we want your input. Come join. Come tell us this is great. Tell us this is horrible. Like, we want that open and honest feedback, and we welcome that at the board. Our emails are out there for everybody to answer, send us a note. We want to kind of hear what's going on, and hey, are we in the right direction with AI's coming, right? Make sure you have policies for that. Technology in the classroom, what's too much, what's too little. What are the areas maybe we need to change our curriculum? So as much as we can, making sure that we have the right staff, the right programs. I don't want to get a program in there. There's been a lot of bad programs in the past that didn't work, and the teachers like, this doesn't work, this is terrible, and then you kind of go back. So
it sounded good when they were selling it to you, though, right?
Yeah, it wasn't me, but that's what I heard. But making sure that they have a voice on kind of where we want to go with that curriculum, I think that's been a really great thing. We have a teacher on the board. We have a former Central Dauphin teacher that's on the board. We have other board members who have been in education. So we have that voice kind of in our room, and our voice of 9 that we have, and making sure that is heard and their viewpoint. So I did one of our current teachers that's on the board. I lean on her all the time. I was like, you're in the building today, right now. What are you seeing? What's working? What's not? And her voice for me is really impactful and helps me kind of make my decisions. I come from the business world, so that's why I'm in the buildings grounded technology and finance, but really leaning into the strengths. And I like this board because there's a lot of different backgrounds that kind of can speak to everybody's different point of view. And together we're an adhesive unit. We may not agree on every single thing, but at the end of the day, we have the same vision where we care about our students and our staff, and we care about our taxpayers, obviously, as well. And we're coming through it the right way. And, I love what we have going on right now. Good.
Bill, I saw you wanted to jump back in.
Just two questions. You talked about the size of the district and all that's going on. It's Dr. Turman's a superintendent, right? Is that the right name?
Eric Turman, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have anyone like assistant superintendent to help him out? I mean, what's the setup there at the top of the administration?
Sure. So before we hired the new superintendent, the structure at Central Dauphin was a superintendent with 2 assistant superintendents. And they kind of each had their own purview of kind of what they handled. When Mr. Turman came on board and began to sort of figure out his path and working with the board, we restructured the leadership team in what he likes to refer to as his cabinet, which is his sort of department heads and top level position. So he has 1 assistant superintendent, which is downsized from 2 that we had previously.
Yeah, and the last thing with this whole thing with the 2 of you coming on, Dave and Mike, it's great that because you have some interaction with the community. And with Lingostown Gazette, what I'm trying to do is reintroduce local journalism. And of course, the big part is covering government. And beyond the meetings, I know there's committee meetings. My question is, if I get enough volunteers, we can get what I'm calling community watchdogs, at least sit in those meetings. Do you advertise those? And if you do, where are they at? Where's that at?
Yeah, we do. We have newspaper, online, you got our Facebook page, all that. There's like specific rules on when we do it. There's a certain amount of time beforehand. Right. I don't know the exact one. We have a team that does that. That's great at it. So Facebook's a great way to just check where that's at. see all those different committee meetings. Our regular board meetings are now on YouTube, so you can see those there. You don't
Okay,
need
right.
to leave your couch or your computer if you see those. The committee meetings, it's more technically challenging because we got to have certain notes and know who's speaking. There's a lot of details on the minutes that we don't have a full staff there for this side. So right now those are in person, and they're usually at that new administration building, and they're advertised. I mean, almost every month you're gonna have one. There's the personnel, there's policy committee, buildings and ground, finance, and then our academic committee.
Technology.
And it's open, just like our other meetings. People can come in and speak, and we publicly talk about what we're going to talk about before the meeting. And that kind of group says, "Hey, this is a thing. This is the idea. And we vote on it there, and then it moves to the full board." So we get really heavy into the details. Okay. Finance committee. If you don't love numbers, maybe that's your favorite committee. But it's great to learn information on there. Same thing with personnel, and it's good to be at those meetings to kind of see really what's going on.
Sure.
And, I think Bill, the meetings are on our website too.
Okay. All right.
So when they get scheduled, there isn't a necessarily regular cadence that we follow. Okay. And I think as you guys both know, but maybe the audience isn't aware completely, we have 2 vacancies currently on the board right now, one in Region 1 and one in Region 2. And so we've tried to pause to the extent that we can our committee meetings until we fill those positions to bring those individuals in so they don't miss anything. Because as Dave talked about, one of the great things about the committee structure is it allows us an opportunity to really dive, discuss, and deal with issues. Because a lot of times people just see the regular meeting, the school board meeting, and we don't have a lot of questions. We don't have a lot of conversation.
Right. It's all happened already.
It's all been vetted at the committee level.
Right.
And so, all the board members are split up amongst all the committees. And so everybody's kind of got a role to play, and they do a great job of really vetting things well in advance of the board.
And I think those openings, the deadline to apply was today, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did discuss it, Bill, on your show, right? The other night, we announced that they were looking for a board member for Region 1 and Region 2, and then how to apply.
Yeah.
But I think that has lapsed just hours ago. Probably.
I think, and I think the February 17th is when you're going to be interviewing and voting, something like
February 12th.
Yeah, February 12th. We're going to have
12th, okay.
We're going to have a special meeting because we have 2 vacancies.
Right.
The time commitment involved of interviewing. So the way the process works is we have to have we're not allowed to discuss it in private. Right. We can't discuss it in executive session. We can't discuss it privately. Everything must be done at the public meeting, which we do. We ask everybody the same questions, but because we have 2 vacancies and we don't know how many people are going to apply, it could take a little while. And so we set aside a special meeting just for the issue of the vacancy.
And that's the 12th. And at what time? Do you know?
I think it's 6 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock at the.
I got that from your
building.
Facebook page.
Yeah, and it's by the way, it's just to talk about the process. There's certain things we again have to do. The process is you have to nominate someone and then vote. But you may want to vote no because you want to hear the other candidates and kind of go through. It's like the worst process ever, but that's the process we legally have to do. I really, really hate that process, but we don't have any options.
I think you got a good one last time. I think Kristen, you got a good one last time in Kristen Hanford when you had to go through this same process. What, a year and a half or so ago, give or take. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a comment. Someone asked some question about personnel. I would always tell people that being on the board and seeing how many rumors and things that I hear, and some people that are really close friends, and hey, I heard this rumor. And I'm like, I don't have no clue where that came from. Our committees are a great place to ask questions. Emails to our board and our administration. I mean, we get emails and there's usually a response within the same day. I mean, it's almost always that way. So complete transparency. I think with this whole group, the administration has done a great job with that. So anytime people have those kind of questions, feel free to go ahead and email the board and the superintendent.
What's a good email to reach? Is there?
I think I think it's Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's boardmembers@cdschools.org. When you send that goes to all the board members as well as the member top leadership in the administration. So everybody gets it.
Here we go. Let's do this. Board members at cdschools.org. So there was another question or two that was asked tonight, and I'm going to let's see here. Dana, please, we're just kind of running out of time, and Bill will vouch for me. I try to get to all the questions, all the comments, but sometimes we're for the sake of time, please reach out at board members at cdschools.org, Dana, with whatever questions you have that we weren't able to address tonight.
Yep, we're happy to answer the questions.
We appreciate it.
So
So,
we
okay.
get them all the time. So it's just part of kind of the role. And we as board members, in the past maybe had to like, hey, can you make sure it's taken care of? But for the most part, like there's no need to be follow up. There's a really good response on that. And I know I'm really satisfied with the administration, the job that they're doing, and making sure that they are responsive and transparent, and they're available at all the meetings, and they're there at every single meeting to answer questions.
Right. How about
just-
Go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to tell you, just so you know, when I show up, if I show up at the 12th, for example, I won't be wearing this hat. I will have a press badge. This is only for video. So.
There you go.
He's a hammer, though, guys. He's going to come in guns a-blazing, man. Let's get rid of the guns part. But he's going to come in ready to rock.
Don't listen to him. Don't listen.
Bill is as good as it gets at reporting on local politics, whether it's school district or Lower Paxton Township.
I think and I think, Bill, to your point, right? I think as a local government entity, right? I think we should welcome somebody covering us, because a lot of times, the social media posts or the other comments or the questions are coming because they just don't know. Right. And they don't have all the details or the facts. It's not their fault. They just don't have an opportunity to know all the details.
Well,
so,
the other part is you don't have a way of getting what you want the public to know out to the community. That's the other part.
True. So, if there are people that are consistently reporting on here's what's going on in the school district, and here's what they passed, and here's what it means, and all that kind of stuff, I think we should welcome that.
Yeah. Thanks for that attitude. That's a great attitude.
Sure.
Okay, so here's canned question number 2. We already addressed what you're most proud of and the district's strengths. What are the biggest challenges? I know there's eons of challenges, but what's that one that kind of hangs right above your face in bed at night? Like, man, I just can't. I just want to get up tomorrow. This would be the first thing I would try to accomplish or put behind us if I could. Mike?
Yeah, for me, it's student discipline.
Okay, that's very important.
It's I guess before coming into this role, I didn't quite have a sense as to the impact and the challenge. I've been blessed and fortunate to have 2 kids who kind of kept it on the straight and narrow and have done a really good job, and so I didn't personally have to deal with it, but it is something that has opened my eyes serving in this role. And then, as Dave talked about, we've got 2 educators, one retired, one current, on the school board, and they have done a wonderful job of educating the rest of the board of what it's like to be in the classroom and the challenges. So, for me, it's probably student behavior and discipline, followed closely by, financial challenges.
Okay, Dave Dorneman.
Pretty much the same answer, just a little different on the discipline. It's not only the discipline; it's the new way that students are learning and their brains are wired. I have a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, and even their gap, they just learn differently. Like not only my 2 boys, but their friends, right? And it's just different, and the world is changing, and the brains are changing, and a lot of different things are happening that way. So, trying to make sure we meet students in a way that keeps them engaged is really, really difficult. And what tools can we put in our educators' hands to make sure that they do that? And then secondarily, financial and specifically buildings and grounds and capacity issues. So I feel a little better when we were about 18 months ago, but we still have some problems to solve over the next couple of years.
Okay, so let's kind of wrap it up with this. What about your vision and strategies moving forward into an ever-changing future? I mean, whatever we're talking about right now, it's not going to go away anytime real soon, but there's going to be new challenges on top of these real soon, right, guys? Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, for the future, I just really hope we get the capacity issues resolved. We have, and we've talked ad nauseum about the kindergarten and the impact that had on the elementaries. But we're staring down the barrel of some serious capacity issues at the middle school and high school levels, particularly on the Linglestown side, as well as the CD high school. And so, a future priority for me before my time's up on the board is really trying to figure out what's the path and what does it look like, and does it involve advocating for educational impact fees in our local governments? Does it involve using eminent domain to grab property because we need a new building? Does it involve expanding current buildings because that's the most economical decision to make? So for me, I think the future for me is all around trying to get a handle on these capacity issues and what are we going to do to fix them.
Good. Okay, Dave Dorneman. Strategies moving forward is the question.
Yeah. So I'm thinking more on the early side is my future is like, I'm more of a back to basics, like, the phonics and the math, but making sure our students are well prepared in that early education, whether it's pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, early on, just making sure they have the skills and the foundation. And, sometimes some of the federal and state guidelines are pushing all these different ways. Really, we need to make sure that our students are well prepared. That way they moved a lot faster and easier through the system all the way there. And then when we get to the back end, making sure we have different pathways for students. So it's not just college anymore. You look at the cost of college and some of these degrees, you're like, does that even really make sense if that's going to be your degree and that's going to be your job? So getting them job ready, career ready, giving them different paths, maybe creating new spaces. We're talking about new construction spaces where students can learn hand-on. We have our VOTEC, but we max out our seats. Not all of our students are even allowed to get in there because we only have a certain amount of seats that we're allowed to have from our side. So giving all of our students, no matter what path you want to go, you want to go to AI, guess what? It's already here. You don't know about AI. I know everybody talks about it as a buzzword. It's here. And there's a lot of changes that are going to come for that. So being prepared for us is making sure that our students are prepared for what's coming when they are going to graduate or when they graduate college or when they're 4 or 5 years into their career. We can't be preparing for something that was 20 years ago because the world is changing very, very rapidly. And we need to be prepared for that. And it's our duty for our students to come out as great citizens and being ready to go and be, make an impact on the community.
What a serious responsibility that is to know that you're doing the best you can as individuals, as a board, to prepare these young men and women for futures as an adult. I mean, that is just it kind of, when I think about it, it's kind of unnerving, and it's a combination of all the things we just talked about for the last hour and 5 minutes. There's so much. You guys have your work cut out for you, you and the other right now it would be 7, but directors. So thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I mean, I always say this, I never set any expectations for a show because I just like them to play out the way that they do. But had I set any tonight, we would have far exceeded them. I mean, you guys, I thank you for your transparency. Thank you for your service to the students in the district. And, I want to mention just one more time, let me throw this back up there. For those who didn't have a chance, this is how you reach Mike and Dave and the rest of the directors. And they'll get back to you. I know they will.
Yep.
Come to me if they don't. I know that they will. So let's thank our sponsors one more time here. And they are American Legion Post 272, Team PA, AAU basketball, Rickabaz Electric. They are the sponsors on the This and That, the podcast side, and Blue Line Pools and Outdoor Living on the Lingelstown Gazette side. Bill Bostic, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Always
guys.
a pleasure. Central Dauphin School District Board President Mike Jacobs and Director Dave Dorneman. If there's anything we can ever do to help you guys, please reach out and let us know.
We appreciate the venue. We appreciate the opportunity and a great conversation. So,
Absolutely.
Joe, Bill, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, good night.
Bill, golf clap for these guys,
golf
man.
clap, right.
We don't give them out. We don't give them out real frivolously or real easily. You guys get a golf clap. Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Take care.